Welcome back. I hope you were able to understand the Gemara. I want to remind all of you that when you fill out the work, when you fill out the material, to make sure to turn it in. On the top right, there's a button to submit it and turn it in. And when you finish filling it out, you turn it in. If you didn't finish it and you turned it in already, then you can be in touch with me. There's a way to unsubmit it and for you to go back and finish the work. But it doesn't notify me that you finished the work unless you click turn it in. Some of you filled out the work. I had to look and find the work that you did because you didn't write turn it in. So most of you did it right. Okay, we're going to move on and we're going to start right away with the Sikha. We already did Eis Aleph yesterday. And today we're going to continue with Eis Beis. Eis Beis is a bit long. We're not going to do the whole thing. We're going to do the first part of Eis Beis. Now let's do a quick recap on what we learned in Eis Aleph. Now the Sikha is from Parshas Matos Masei. Matos Masei, Parshas Masei begins with the Jewish people's journey out of Mitzrayim until they reached Eretz Yisrael. We discussed there were 42 different journeys that they took. In the beginning of the Sikha, the Rebbe discussed, it's almost like a short Dvar Torah in itself. And now the Rebbe is going to elaborate on that more and how it's practical. But the short Vart itself that the Sikha opened with in Eis Aleph was that for the Jewish people to leave Mitzrayim, it was one journey. Only one journey left Mitzrayim. All the other journeys were journeys to get to Eretz Yisrael, but they were already out of Mitzrayim. So why does it say plural, Ela Masei? These are the journeys of the Yidden leaving Mitzrayim. That was one question. Another question the Rebbe asked is, why were 42 journeys necessary to go from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael? What was the point of them? What part did they play in the journey of the Jewish people from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael? And to explain this, the Rebbe brought the idea that Mitzrayim comes from the word Meitzar, which means being stuck, narrow, being locked. And spiritually, it doesn't necessarily mean physically locked up, like you might be now in your house, but it means stuck in your life. A person stuck in what they're doing, that they feel that there's no way out. They feel that they're not able to move higher and go to a more open place. And we ask Hashem and brachas, maybe we should go in the Meitzar Lamarchav, the Rebbe would give brachas like that. And therefore we explained that we will only reach the ultimate openness. We will only reach a place that we're not going to have any part of us that's stuck when Mashiach comes. But till Mashiach comes, in every step of the way, we may be better than yesterday. We may be less stuck than yesterday. So that means we're outside yesterday's Mitzrayim, but we're still in Mitzrayim because there's still things that we're stuck in. So when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, yes, they were out of the first type of being stuck. They weren't slaves anymore, but they were still stuck in other areas. Like in the desert, they needed mun, they didn't have water. So they may have been out of one type of jail, one type of prison, one type of narrowness, Meitzar, but they still had to come out of more. So today you may be in a wider place compared to yesterday, but you're in a narrow place compared to tomorrow. That is the general idea. That's why all the journeys were leaving Mitzrayim. Maybe not leaving the physical place in Mitzrayim. Only the first journey left the physical place, but they were all leaving different stages of being narrow, being stuck. And that's why it took 42 journeys that were all necessary to completely leave being stuck till Mashiach comes. The last journey was Yarden Yerechoi, Reach meaning smell, which refers to Mashiach, that we'll be able to judge with the smell. Okay. Now following that, now in Eis Beis, the Rebbe is going to make it very, very practical with a good example from the way we serve Hashem in davening, and this is going to be very geschmack. It's a beautiful sikha, and let's get right into it. I'm now going to share with you my screen. Let's find the right screen. Here we go. And we are going to go to the Sikha section. You can see the work is scheduled to be released tomorrow. So you can do it tomorrow. And by the way, I did change from a form, I changed it to a document. This way, some of you are having a problem with spelling it wrong. I'll just be looking over the document and, but of course, do the quiz the same way, where you're not looking at anything else. I'm trusting you, you big boys. And the worksheet also is not a form anymore, it's a document. So again, it's easy to go back and forth, just like the Gemara was. No more forms for now. This way you can go back into it. I could see it easier. It's more convenient using Google Classroom. Okay, but first we're going to open the Sikha. We're going to open the PDF. You can do this on your screen. And we're going to zoom in. We're up to Ice Bays, section 4. Let's start right away by reading inside, and then when we finish a certain part, we'll open the document to see the questions. Okay. Torah, we're up to Ice Bays. I'll put the mouse over it. Torah is doch anitzchis. Torah is eternal. It's everlasting. B'chol dar v'dar, for every single generation. Ubifrat, and especially, they're Inyan from Yetzias Mitzrayim, not just the whole Torah, but there are certain parts of the Torah which are especially relevant to every generation. And one of those parts are Yetzias Mitzrayim. How do we know that? Because it says about Yetzias Mitzrayim, of them, about this, that we say this in the 12 Psukim, we say this in the Haggadah, and there's a word here the Alter Rebbe adds in Tanya, in Parak Mem Zayin, which is Chayav Adam. A person is obligated. It's an obligation for you to do what? Lires esatzmai, to see yourself. Keilu, as if hu yatza, as if you yourself left hayoim, today, mimitzrayim, from Mitzrayim. Not just to look at yourself as if you're from a nation that left Mitzrayim 3,000 years ago. No, that's not what it says. It says you have an obligation to look at yourself as if right now, today, you are leaving Mitzrayim. Now, are you leaving the physical place in Mitzrayim? Obviously not. So there's obviously the nigla and simple explanations, but the Chassidic explanation is that the idea of leaving Mitzrayim, like we explained, is leaving your limitations, applies every single day. And every day you are leaving Mitzrayim. So this tells us that whatever we talk about leaving Mitzrayim is not relevant because we're part of a nation that left Mitzrayim, or because we're learning about them. No, it has to do with you and your life today. And therefore, the Rebbe continues up to the fifth line here, the end of the line, is das ahira in avodah. Therefore, it must be a lesson, a practical lesson in us serving Hashem. Okay, what's the lesson? As oich, that also, b'shas menachon gepoilt, when you already accomplished, by yourself. What did you accomplish by yourself? An avodah shelamayla mitam vadas. You're already serving Hashem in a way that is not rational, that is not logical, that doesn't make sense. You're serving Hashem in a way that doesn't make sense. In a way where you're not limited. You don't feel that you're stuck. You don't feel blocked. There's nothing blocking you. You're serving Hashem without anything blocking you. That when you're serving Hashem in such a strong way, a person might think, okay, I'm good. There's nowhere else for me to get out of. Nothing can stop me. Thus, their myth, that with this is men arois, a person is already out of a person is out of all limitations, all things that block him, even holy things that block him. We'll get to that soon. I'll elaborate more once we finish reading inside. Is das, the Rebbe says this is noch nit genug. We're up to the fourth to last line in the paragraph. I just finished reading the fourth to last line in the paragraph. Is das noch nit genug, that is still not enough. Warum? Because legabe hecher, if you were to compare where you are to a higher level, is das noch als Mitzrayim. It is still considered being stuck. The male automatically, darf man weiter arbeiten, a person needs to work further, weiter again, and go further. What does this mean? So we discussed this yesterday, but let's focus on it right here. What does it mean leaving Mitzrayim? Leaving Mitzrayim for every single person means something different. It depends what's part of your life. It depends the regular things you deal with on the regular day. There are things that block you, things that you're stuck in, and therefore you kind of have a narrowness in your life. And this can be in physical life. It's hard for a person to push himself to get out of bed. It's hard for a person to push himself to make a proper supper meal. It's hard for a person to push themselves to exercise a bit longer every day. That could be in physical things, but then there's holy things also. It's hard for a person to get themselves to look in the siddur while they daven. It's hard for a person to get themselves to actually properly learn when they're at home and there's no regular school. Or let's say even if there was, but when there's break and it's Pesach time, it's hard for a person to get themselves to learn during Pesach break. Or it's hard for a person to get themselves to help their mother during Pesach. Those are all blocks. They're things that are blocking you. That's a Mitzrayim. You're in a narrow place. You're stuck. Something's holding you back. You're not open. Open means that you're able to do everything you need to do. And there's nothing stopping you. So leaving Mitzrayim means that there's nothing stopping you. You're able to do anything and there's nothing in your way. So what the message of Mitzrayim tells us, that even when you think you left Mitzrayim, even if you think that you're already in an open place and you're doing everything that you want to do and there's nothing stopping you, till Mashiach comes, there is always going to be things blocking us. There is always, we're still in the Mitzrayim. You may be better than yesterday. You maybe have grown. You maybe have taken one of those blocks out of your life, but there's still another block that you need to find and you need to get rid of. You need to open yourself up more. So even if you may have gotten rid of one block, there's always another block that you need to get rid of. In our lives, it's very easy to find that. We're obviously talking here about a perfect person that thinks they're in the most open place. There's still a block. Shiach's not here yet. In our own lives, it's much easier, at least I could talk for myself. I'm sure some of you can relate, that you may have gotten rid of one block. For example, the example I gave, let's say a person, it's hard for him to wake up in the morning on time and be ready for school. And that same person, it's also hard for him to focus during class. And it's also hard for him to share something he has with his friends during the day. And it's also hard for him when he gets home to not just go on a screen and not just go and play a game, but to review what he learned, or to go and daven ma'ariv. So he has many things that are mitzrayim, many things that are blocking him, that he's stuck in. Now, even if you have many of these things, and you say, you know what, I'm going to work on making sure I can get up in the morning on time and be ready in the morning. You work on that for a few days, a week, 2 weeks, you make yourself regular. You're getting up on time all of a sudden. You feel free. You feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not stuck anymore. I don't have that mitzrayim. Very good. You're right. You did leave one of your mitzrayim. You did leave one area that you're stuck, but there's still other mitzrayims that you have. So yes, compared to where you were before, you left mitzrayim. But compared to where you could be, compared to what else you can do, what else you need to get out of, you didn't leave Mitzrayim. That's what we're saying here. That's what it means that every day, every day you're leaving Mitzrayim. Because every day there's another thing that you need to work on to get out of Mitzrayim. Now, how is that possible? I mean, a person thinks if I accomplish something in serving Hashem, I got better in serving Hashem, how is it possible that I'm not in a good place? So an example for this, the Rebbe is going to give us from davening. But before we go to the example from davening, let's go to our worksheet. So I'm going to close this. So we're going to go back to our Google Classroom, and I'm going to open up the Matos Masei 2. Okay? These are all the questions on Ois Base Part 1, which is hopefully what we'll cover today. Let's go. First question. What does it mean to spiritually leave Mitzrayim? So we just discussed that. Spiritually leaving Mitzrayim means that you are leaving something that blocks you in your life. You're leaving something that keeps you stuck and doesn't let you do what you want to do. And you can give an example. You can write an example there of something that stops you in your life, a Mitzrayim that you have that you need to get out of. That's what it means. You're not leaving the physical place of Mitzrayim, but spiritually leaving Mitzrayim. Okay, now question 2. What is the general message? Matos Masei is telling someone who already left Mitzrayim spiritually. So a person, like we said, a person thinks, I already got out of my Mitzrayim. I'm in the good place. I'm in the open place. What's the message we learn from Matos Masei? Journeys. But there's always more journeys till Mashiach comes. The message we learned, the answer to question 2 is that you may be better than yesterday. You may be out of where you were stuck yesterday, but there's still something that you could connect, that you need to get out of today. That there's still something that you can grow and become greater and get higher, and leave something that you're still stuck in today, even though you already left something that you're stuck in yesterday. So compared to yesterday, you're free. But compared to tomorrow, you're still in Mitzrayim. That's the answer to question 2. We're now going to go back to the Google Classroom, unless you have a tab open still, or you're following the video, and we're going to open back our PDF. And we're going to go back to continue in Ois Beis. Okay, we're in the bottom paragraph. We're going to continue inside. The Rebbe now is going to give example from davening. Okay? Here. Then Vetas, we're up to section 5. Vetas verstehen, we'll understand this idea that no matter how far you grow in holy things, there's always further that you need to get. Euch also from dem Indian, from Avodas Atfilah, from the idea of davening. Okay. Was das, that this, Avodas Atfilah davening, is avodas, skip the English, is avodas ha'adam, is a person working on themselves. It's you serving Hashem with your own brain, your own heart, your own feelings, your own body. What does that mean? So the Rebbe explains. This is something that I mentioned yesterday that we learned in the beginning of the year in the Ani L'Doidi Maimer, in Elul. We learned about the difference between Mamala Lamata, Mamata Lamayla, about us going up to Hashem or Hashem coming down to us. That's the difference between Larenavius is Bavust, as it is known, their Unterschied, the difference between Torah and Tefillah, between learning and davening. What's the difference between learning and davening? Guys, Torah is Mamala Lamata. Learning Torah is from above down. Meaning Torah was something that we didn't work on. Torah is something that Hashem just gave us as a gift. Hashem gave us a present. Torah is a gift that Hashem gave us. And Torah is not something that, maybe something you need to work on to understand, but it's not something where you're working on yourself. You're sitting there and just taking in Hashem's wisdom and letting it come into your head in the way that Hashem gave it to you. But in Tefillah, davening is very different. Davening is avodas ha'adam u'mata lamayla. Davening is you working on yourself, moving up from where you are and getting higher. So davening is actually a perfect example of leaving Mitzrayim, leaving where you are and getting higher. And that's why davening is compared to the ladder that was in Yaakov's dream, where Yaakov saw a ladder. And that we're going to quote the pasuk. So this in many places it explains that davening is like this ladder, a sulam, a ladder, mutzav arza, which is stuck in the ground. That's where you are. You are stuck in your place. The roishay, but the top of the ladder, magia shemaim, reaches the heaven. In davening, you start in a very low place and you make your way up until you reach the heaven. So davening is like going out of Mitzrayim. Vasmen gate, mumata lamayla. You are going from a lower place to a higher place. Aroiskein, going out from Mokem HaMeitzar, from a narrow place, the Mokem HaMerchav to a wider place. So the general difference between learning and davening is that learning is you're taking in from what's higher than you, coming down to you. Hashem gave us a gift of Torah. Davening, you're not taking in something from higher. You're bringing yourself up. You're taking yourself from wherever you are and elevating yourself, working on yourself to get yourself to a higher place. That's like leaving from the narrow place, okay? So now, before we continue, we're going to go right back to our worksheets. And we just answered question 3. What is the difference in style of serving Hashem while davening and learning? Davening is the learning, you're receiving from Hashem, you're taking it in from up, down. Davening, you're working on yourself to make yourself better, to bring yourself up to Hashem. Okay, so therefore, davening is a perfect example of going from a narrow place to a wider place. Let's continue the Sikha. There's Doch Yadua. Okay, we're up to this paragraph. There's Doch Yadua, it's known as in Tfilo, Zanim Faran, Kama, V'Kama Aliyas. That in davening, there are many, many different levels of going up. Vasmet Yeder Aliyah, and every level of going up, Geiter Arois, von seinem frierdicken Matzev. A person is going out of their previous state. A person is leaving where they were earlier and going to a higher place. Like a journey out of Mitzrayim. Like we said, every day working on yourself. So every step in davening, you're leaving a lower place where you were and making your way higher. But davening doesn't only have one step. You would think if davening is leaving where you are and making yourself greater now, we're obviously going to explain this more in length soon. Here the Rebbe was just mentioning it generally. But if davening is leaving where you are and bringing yourself, making yourself higher, leaving Mitzrayim, so you would think davening is just one general step. Where you're leaving where you are and making yourself higher. The Rebbe says, no, davening is not one step. Davening has many steps. Why would that be? Why would davening have so many steps if you're just leaving a lower place where you are and getting yourself closer to Hashem? That's one step. Like we just learned, there are many, many steps in that. It doesn't happen in one step because you leave one narrow place to a wider place, but then in that wider place, there are still things that keep you stuck there. Then you have to leave those narrow things and go to a wider place until you're in the ultimate place, like we said, when Mashiach comes. When you're one with Hashem, where there's like a tzaddik, where there's nothing blocking. So the Rebbe continues, even though you're leaving, going out of Geiter Arois, you're going out of from seinem frierdicken Matzev, from where you were before, but von deswegen, nevertheless, it doesn't stop there. It's not enough. And we see in davening that you still need to go next step, and next step you go higher and higher. That is how we see that davening is similar, just like going out of Mitzrayim. And with that, we're going to go right back to our worksheets. And right here, question 4, how is the journey of davening generally similar to what we learned about? Why there are 42 travels in the journey out of Mitzrayim? Davening is similar because davening has the same idea, that you leave one narrow place and go to a wider place, but that's not enough. There's another step in davening. Davening is not just one step. Even though generally davening is leaving where you are, going to a higher place, there are many steps in that. Because even when you leave your place, going to a higher place, even in that higher place, there's still things that keep you stuck and you need to go even higher, which we're going to explain as we go through the steps of davening that the Rebbe is going to go through in the Sikha. So that's the answer to question 4. The answer is because davening also, there are many steps in leaving where you are to get closer to Hashem. It's not just one step. Okay, so now let's go back to the Sikha. The Rebbe is going to start spelling out how we see this and where we see this in davening. The Ershta Avoida, the first part of us serving Hashem in davening is not davening itself, but the hachana to davening, preparing for davening. What does that mean? Remember, davening is generally mulmata lamayla. You're leaving a lower place, going to a higher place. The Rebbe says something here very interesting, which is not something that is focused on so much outside of Chassidus. Chassidus really takes this to a whole new level. Where Chassidus explains that one of the main parts of davening is not even davening itself. It's preparing for davening. And we're going to see how we see that in halacha also later. But Chassidus elaborates on this a lot, how one of the main parts of davening is preparing for davening. Chassidim would say that a person's davening in the morning doesn't start in the morning. It starts the night before, the way you put yourself to sleep. When you think about when you go to sleep. Chassidim, you read stories from Chassidim before they went to sleep. Think Tanya Balpeh, that when you go to sleep, when you say Kriya Shema at night, that is how your davening starts the next day. Because davening doesn't start from when you start saying Hoidu, or when you start saying Hareini Mekabel, or even when you start saying Maidani. Davening starts from your preparation. Now, what does it mean, preparation for davening? So first, let's understand, why do you need preparation for that? Why you're talking to Hashem? Why can't you just, when you think of it on a simple level, without learning Chassidus, you would think that if you're, what is davening? I'm talking to Hashem. Why do I need to prepare for that? Hashem created me. I have a God. I want to turn to God. So I close my eyes and I turn to speak to Hashem. Why should I need to prepare for that? That's what the Rebbe starts with right away. The Rebbe starts explaining to us right away. First of all, where does preparation for davening come in? Why do I need to prepare for davening? And we're going to spend some time on this. We're going to go on this slowly because it's so important. It's something that you'll learn about much more as you learn more Chassidus. But the Rebbe mentioned very simply here in the Sikha. The Rebbe beautifully explains it in very short and very simple why it's so important to prepare for davening. And let's see. The Rebbe asks a question, a very simple question. Let's read it inside and then I'll explain it. The Rebbe says, Azoi vi ergeitach davenen. You are right now going to daven zum Obersten, to Hashem. Now, what is Hashem? Habilti bal gvul. Hashem is not limited by anything. Ubilti bal tachlis. There is no end or beginning to Hashem. Hashem is everything, anything. Obviously, we don't know what that means. That's who Hashem is. And that's who you're going to daven to. And you, the Adam, the person. Where are you? Who are you? Are you in a place where there's no beginning and end? Are you unlimited? Do you not have any limitations? No. You, the person, finds himself in a guf, in a body, with the nefesh habahamis. That already tells you that you're stuck and you're in a limited place, so different than Hashem, who's not limited. But let's go a step further. Ubefrat, and especially, where you're not dealing with any regular person, but when unfortunately a person may be very dirty, not physically dirty, but spiritually dirty, through averos he may have done. There are other things he may have done wrong. So here comes the big question, is wie soll sich stellen davenen? How are you supposed to be able to stand up and daven, to get yourself to daven? The problem here is, the reason why people don't necessarily understand that davening needs preparation is because they don't think about who they're davening to and where they are. It actually says on Shulchan Aruch that a person, when they start davening, needs to think about, I don't remember the exact words, but I think it's something like this, Gadlus haboire v'shiflus ha'adam, the greatness of the creator of Hashem and how low a human being is. Now, it says that in Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe, there were years where the Rebbe wrote letters to big Rosh Yeshivas, to big people. The Rebbe spoke in Sichos. How the Rebbe says, I don't understand why this is not something, a halacha, that's publicized and focused on as much as any other halacha. It's straight halacha and Shulchan Aruch. They need to think about that. Now, what does it mean to think about that? So let's think a second. The Rebbe says, when you think about that for a second, think about it. What does it mean that you're davening to Hashem? That means Hashem, which we know created us, gives us everything we need. Nothing stops Hashem. Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is everything. We can't understand it. And who are you? You're a person that are in one place. Where you are right now, you're not in the next place. You can't be in two places at once. You don't have everything you need. That's why you're davening to Hashem. And you think you could just all of a sudden out of nowhere just start talking to Hashem? How are you a person that, and especially if you're someone, this is just talking about a regular human being, especially if you're someone that unfortunately did things wrong. And you're dirty, chas v'shalom, in a spiritual way from averos that you may have done. Such a person, how can you go and think that I could all of a sudden speak to Hashem, who is unlimited, everywhere, everything? I should be able. Obviously, the only way for that to happen, meaning the question, how in the world can you be able to do that? The only way for that to happen is obviously one simple answer. You could pause the video and think for a second what you think the answer should be. But the only way you know what? We'll pause for a second. Before we get to the answer, let's go right to the worksheet. If you go on the worksheet, the next question, what is the first stage of the journey in davening? Question 5, preparing for davening. It's the first stage. Not how you do, not Maidani, preparing for davening. Now, what is the general problem that arises when one is getting ready to daven to Hashem? The problem is, how can I, a person who is so limited, a person who is stuck in one place, be able to all of a sudden just start speaking to Hashem who's everywhere and everything, and I don't understand him? That's the answer. Now, question 7, like you see, what are we able to do to solve that problem? How could we go and speak to Hashem? Let's go back to the Sikha. Let's read it inside. We're up to after the question mark. Muz. Muzer sich frier. A person first must befreien, free himself from alle seine Inyanim, from all of your personal matters, und von sein ganzer Metzius, and from your entire existence, und dann stellen sich daven. And only then can a person get himself to go daven. What does that mean? That a person, in order to be able to approach Hashem, who, yeah, he's so great, we didn't understand him, he's unlimited. Well, in order for us to be able to approach Hashem and daven to Hashem from where we are, we have to leave ourselves. Very simple, that's the answer. You have to leave yourself. Leave, not obviously not become someone else, not be there. You have to be there, but you have to leave your existence. Leave what you think about yourself. And leave, we're always thinking about ourselves. We always want things for ourselves. Put that on the side. Put yourself on the side. And think about Hashem, which is also thinking about yourself because you have a neshama, which we'll talk about later. We'll get deeper into it. You'll see when we talk about Shemona Esrei. But think about Hashem. Think about Hashem. Put yourself on the side. That's what you need to do in order to be able for you to speak to Hashem. And that is the answer. Go back to your worksheets. The answer to the next question is, well, what are we able to do to solve this problem? Put yourself on the side, not think about yourself and only think about Hashem. Okay? That is how a person is meant to start davening. Now, let's continue reading inside. Das allein, this itself, der stellen sich davening. Just getting yourself to start davening. Noch eider davent, even before you begin davening. Noch eider angeben sagen hoidu. Even before you began saying hoidu. Oder matoivu, even before you started saying matoivu. Nor das allein, just this itself. Was tut on dem gartel. That we put on the gartel. You don't put on the gartel, but unstell sich daven, you put on your tefillin, let's say. And you start, even before you put on tefillin, just you sit down getting ready to daven. Der mit allein, with that itself, geht der doch heraus von seinen, you're already leaving your own matters, your own personal things. Und wird mezukach, and you're becoming pure, das heißt, which this means, let's go to the top of the next column. Geht arois von seinem Mitzarim Glum. You're already leaving your own limitations. You're already leaving your own narrow places. You're not stuck anymore. So guys, did you already leave Mitzrayim? Yes, you left yourself. That's how you can talk to Hashem. You can't talk to Hashem, who's so great, before leaving yourself. So you already left Mitzrayim. But 1 second, is that enough? That is only the preparation for davening. You now go and continue with saying hoidu, matoivu, and everything else. That means that, of course, there are many steps to leaving Mitzrayim. You right away see how davening is exactly like we're learning before, every day. That already in the first step, before you even start davening, just preparing for davening, you need to leave Mitzrayim. You need to leave yourself. But even once you do that, you're not done. Even once you do that, you need to go and leave another Mitzrayim, which is the next steps in davening, which we'll get to soon. But before we go to we have one more paragraph. Der mit, with this, that man euch verstehen will also understand, was steht euch in Nigle de Torah, what it says in Halacha. I said before, you'll see this not just in Chassidus, but it's clear in Halacha. That as koydem atfila, it says in Halacha, before davening, yifne ve'yitel yada, which means that a person should relieve themselves, they should go to the bathroom before they daven. It says in Halacha. V'yital yadav, and wash their hands. For all those who were wondering, yes, that is where all teachers get it from, that before class you should go to the bathroom. Just like you wouldn't stop davening to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom before class, prepare yourself. This way you don't need to interrupt learning and miss something because you need the bathroom. You don't stop davening because you need the bathroom. You're meant to go before. It says in halacha, this is how you're supposed to prepare to daven. You go to the bathroom and wash your hands. Now, physically, we know what that means. But based on what we just explained, what it means to prepare for davening, to leave yourself, we're going to explain what these two things mean spiritually. Yifnemeint, what does it mean to relieve yourself? It means aroisnemen von sich, taking out of yourself the psoila shebegole v'shebepnimius, all the waste, all the things that are junk, taking out all the junk from yourself. That's how you need to start davening. Before you start davening, you get rid of your own ego, all your own personal desires that are unnecessary. Because why? You're talking to Hashem. You have to get rid of all the junk. That's the first step. Nachtem, the second step is Yitol Yadav, wash your hands. What does wash your hands mean? Well, we wash our hands, to take away impurity. What does it mean to take away the impurity? Now, impurity, like right now, this virus, when the virus is going around, you don't see it on someone's hand. You don't see it on someone's clothing. It's, you know, it's there, it's very contagious, but you don't see it. Tumma is the same idea. Tumma, impurity, it's, you don't see it, but we still wash our hands. Are our hands dirty? They're tummy, but it's not something you see. And still you wash them. Why do you wash them? Because it's something spiritual. And the same thing here, it means what we're saying here. Before you start davening, you need to get rid of yourself. Well, are you dirty? No, but you need to get rid. What do you need to get rid of? It's obviously getting rid of your own desires, your own ego. You're thinking about yourself too much. And think about Hashem. So washing your hands is getting rid of the tumah. Vosas says, Nara and inin fomakif. Tumah is only something that you don't see. It surrounds. And pnimius is this garnished up. Tumah is not something that's inside of you. It's not dirt. Even that you need to get rid of before you daven. That's how you prepare for daven. And still, that is not enough of a Yetzias Mitzrayim. You didn't yet leave all your Mitzrayim. You still need to get out of more, which are the next steps in davening, which we will learn next week. But let's go to the questions. When one begins his journey of davening, at what point is he already leaving his personal Mitzrayim? Not by Hoidu, not by already in the beginning, right when you prepare davening. That's the answer to question A. You're already leaving your personal Mitzrayim as soon as you prepare to daven. Meaning as soon as you leave yourself to get yourself ready to speak to Hashem. Because you're leaving yourself on the side. You're leaving your Mitzrayim. You're leaving yourself out of it. Answer to question 9. What are the two preparations mentioned in halacha to do before davening? To relieve yourself, go to the bathroom, and wash your hands. Question 10. Remember, you can always pause the video to answer. What is the spiritual meaning of these two preparations? The spiritual meaning is that you're getting rid of any junk. That's like going to the bathroom. And you're washing off anything that's impure, anything that's too much of yourself, even if it's external, even if it's on the outside, like tumah, which is something you don't see. You have to get rid of that and focus on Hashem. Okay, now you take a minute and write a summary. And then you can pause and write the summary. Weiter means further. Okay? Now, again, when you finish this, submit it, and I'll be looking over it. Remember to click on the top right, the button that says submit it. Here it's different because I'm not in the student version, but you're going to write to turn it in. And yeah, again, everyone have a good Shabbos. Thank you to all those that are filling it out. You got a lot of credit for the situation we're in to be learning like this, and you're all doing very well. I want to be able to answer all your questions and all your comments, and have a wonderful Shabbos. We'll see you next week, hopefully with Mashiach.